All systems a go. Popping out the chat. Surprise early inspection stream. Good morning, everyone. Oops. Try not to bump my microphone. I've got it slightly set up different. No cheese today. Pugmire. I've heard about Pugmire. There's a couple of animal-centric, sort of furry-esque RPGs that are around lately. Only the last couple of years. Oh, sorry, that's my alarm going on. Shh. I'm back. Hey. So, what would everybody like to talk about today? I'm ready and waiting for your questions. Yeah, Pezra and Roper. I don't know why I was inspired to make that little collage of images. They're running away from what I think is like a Pathfinder Roper. Oh, that's the one, Monarchies and Mao. Coffee instead of cheese? Well, yeah. I'm still deciding on what to include at the start of the streams. Possibly fruit or, I don't know, something. Or maybe share a recipe with people. Do cats go to heaven in Toril? Yeah, they do. They go to a different realm. Hakuna Matata. They go to a different realm of the seven heavens. The one with all the libraries. So picture archons and angels sitting there reading an ancient tome and scratching a spectral cat. Hey Loki, Faith, Kairos, nice to see you. William, Adam Superdog, Stephen, Scott, Mr. Al, Dragon Turtle, Juju Bear, Don, Amigo, Adrian, John, Fiona. No, it doesn't have to be food. Types of nuts like almonds. Yeah, I suppose so. I don't know. I could talk about current events in the first 10 minutes or so of the live stream. What's new? Yeah, reading newspapers and ancient tomes of lore with cats. That's my idea of heaven too. You haven't missed anything, Wondersweet. Shady grin. Oh, that's cool, William. Thank you. And happy birthday. Hey, thanks, Adrian. Cheers. So you see me quaffing coffee at an alarming rate this morning because it's midwinter and I really need to. I'm one of those guys that likes to sort of hibernate during winter, so I have to keep well caffeinated. How art I? I am but passing fares, good sir. Hey, Caramel Luna. Yeah, there are some interesting fruits. I can't always get hold of exotic fruits though, so you're going to see me like reviewing apples and things. I like to eat seasonal fruit, which I understandably would be different from seasonal fruit over in the States. Like for instance, we've about a couple of months ago, well, last month was persimmon season, and at the moment it's mostly pears, and it's just the start of the second citrus season. So I did contemplate going out and picking some mandarins, or I guess you would call them satsumas, because they're in season at the moment, and we need to get them eaten, and they are delicious. Why are there not more tech? Why is there not more technology in DD? Is it that most people just go into magic, or do the gods put blocks on some technology because they find them disruptive, like gunpowder? Yeah, well, that's a perfect case in point, Dragon Turtle, about Gond restricting gunpowder specifically. So you can make smoke powder, but it has to be actually. It's not. It wouldn't work on Earth as gunpowder. Because it's got a divine sort of spark to it. So there's an actual ritual involved in making smoke powder. So it's kind of the Gondite priests have got a corner on the pirate trade, you could say, which is makes an interesting setup for the port of Lantern. But of course, it's a trope of Dungeons and Dragons that on the one hand you've got this lack of this anachronism, this lack of technology, and on the other hand you've got magic, which, as Arthur C. Clarke put it, is a superior form of technology that we don't understand. So in the form of magic, it's hard to describe. Really, it's hard to. You can debate many hours into the night why it's like that, but the end of the story is that it's because writers like it that way. It's because that's how we want to set our stories. And there's nothing stopping you from developing technology and stuff in your game. But the way that the world setting is set up, there are technological apparatuses, like the apparatus of Aquilish, for instance, is a submersible robot. Warforged are androids. That sort of thing. Golems are yeah, high technology, really. More advanced than what we've got. They just and there are things like printing presses and stuff that pop up every now and then. But D&D is a very topsy turvy. Empires rise and fall. In the past, there was quite advanced technology. In the ancient empire of El Masca, for instance, they had quite a lot of high tech, sort of steampunky type stuff. Netheril was a magocracy that was very high in magic. So they had all sorts of mod cons in their day-to-day life, hot and cold running water, plumbing, that sort of stuff. But it was handled by magic, not technology. So they never really felt the need to work on that sort of stuff. And of course, they've never developed mass communication and mass manufacturing. So they don't have a worldwide infrastructure of trade like we do, although they probably could. The problem is that it's a much more fragmented sort of world, politically and also geographically, and also the fact that some areas are controlled by non-humans. So it's hard to have a dirigible trade network of ships flying to and from the Sword Coast to Thay, for instance, when they could be attacked by a flight of dragons. Thanks, Matt D. D&D Modern, yeah. Yeah, so the gods, basically Gond was both looking out for his own faith and his people, giving them an edge, and also he could see in other worlds, I suppose, that gunpowder was a huge problem. Bright on Netflix, I watched it. It's okay. I'm a big fan of Will Smith anyway, so anything he produces is good. I have done one on Storm Giants, and I've got. I'm going to be updating Dragons and Giants pretty soon. Recipes from New Zealand. Oh yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, who needs a gun when you've got a wand of fireballs? Good point. Yeah, what happens if you take a nuclear bomb to Forgotten Realms? That's a good question. Spellweavers, yeah. Yeah, so Mystra, the goddess of magic, promotes magic. So in the past, and in Forgotten Realms, for instance, like it's more likely now that technology will increase because there's more and more restrictions on magic because mortals keep abusing it. But Mistra had or Mistral in the past, had a much more open policy on magic use. So mortals were basically welcome to use magic if they could learn the words. They didn't have to have an innate spark of magical talent. So anybody could pick up a scroll and basically read a spell. And she didn't have any upper limit restrictions on magic, so you had flying mountain cities, that sort of thing. So in the past, even more so, magic was just much easier to do than technology. Yeah, electricity still works. Just Victor's name gets your jammies ruffled. Yeah, I hear it's really hot over in the States at the moment. Magics. Will I cover other celestial races and groups? Archons and angels are cool, but I would like to see more neutral and chaotic aligned celestials. Yep, for sure. So I've got Holophants and there's all sorts of celestial creatures. No cheese. Global warming is a myth. Sure. I like how every single summer it's like, it's the hottest summer on record. I'm like, yes, since last summer. Yeah, so yeah, there's guns and clockwork stuff, and I suppose if you took a cell phone over to the Forgotten Realms from Earth, I guess it would work in a limited sort of sense. Of course, there's no cell network or anything like that over there. There's no internet. Oh, thanks, Michael. Do we have a theme for today? Well, the theme is deeply nerdy, so I'm basically just answering questions. I'd imagined that I was going to get a lot of celestial questions today, so I'm prepared to answer a lot of those. What chromatic dragon would I be if I could be one? I wouldn't. I'd find a way to shapeshift back into a human. I don't want to be a monster. Yeah, exactly. Lasers are much more likely in a D&D setting. Radiant damage, man, it's the shit. Casters did nothing wrong. Yeah, so AO doesn't actually get involved in stuff, particularly what mortals do. AO just doesn't. He's got a hands-off policy for mortals, really. He's concerned about the overall governance of the divine realms around Faerun and stuff. And not only that, he doesn't have control over the entire planet. Well, he does. I mean, he can split it off into Abir and Toril and rearrange the cosmology of that sphere. But like, he doesn't get involved in the celestial court of Karatur. 35 degrees. It's not too bad. The worst I've ever been in was 44 degrees for about 4 days over in Australia. And that was hell. Sorry, Voltitsta. Hey, Angry Gnome. Oops, I missed a couple of questions there. Do I intend to do any videos on the pantheons and their churches following? And if not, do you have any recommendations to other channels or wikis? I always recommend Jordan, the PH is silent, Forgotten Realms Explained. He's done some great work on pantheons. Mr. Rex does great videos, slightly shorter format, but very informative. I don't know if he's done pantheons and stuff, but he's certainly been working his way through dragons and other D&D creatures as of late. His channel started out doing gaming stuff, I think, and now he's just sort of transitioned into D&D 5e, so the more the merrier. There's, let's see, lore videos. I've got a few links on my channel for channels that I recommend that I definitely think you should go and check out. Dungeon Dad also does monster stuff. I don't know if he's done any Celestials or Pantheons. Yeah, So I'll talk about like specific gods and stuff sometimes. It really depends. Next year, particularly, I'm mainly just going to sort of go off and do my own thing with the channel, and I'll still be taking requests and stuff. But I've got a lot of content that I want to cover, just because I want to cover it, sort of thing, for completeness. Like if it's been perfectly fine following everybody's requests for videos because I quite often get led down paths for lore that I would not have otherwise looked up because I just wasn't aware of it. Now I've got more of a general awareness of things in D&D and the ways to research and stuff, and the sort of depth that I go into to research things leads me on all sorts of different things that I've seen that would be interesting for people to see, which they might not necessarily recommend because they don't know it exists. So next year I want to do a lot more sort of homebrew content, and also a lot more methodical, sort of covering different topics and things. So completing the Demon series and updating old videos and having general discussions about specific topics. So that's a good question with the Runesmith, yeah. So the cosmologies in D&D are different if you look at the settings themselves, but you could also say that the beings that live on these worlds have got their own ideas of how their world came to be and stuff. But it's a lot easier to do a general overview of the D&D cosmos, the multiverse, if you use Planescape and Spelljammer. So the basis of my exploration of the lore of the multiverse of D&D integrates Spelljammer and Planescape into what I'm talking about, because that's how I find it easier to just cover all the bases. And it's really not that hard. You don't have to do a lot of adaptation and changing things around from its existing lore. It gets a little bit more problematic when you're talking about Ravnica, because that's in a different multiverse, and the Magic the Gathering multiverse definitely has different cosmology to the D&D multiverse. Like it's got different laws of physics and stuff. Planes work differently. There's no gods per se. There's just the planeswalkers. Or I haven't seen any mention of gods in Ravnica and Planescape in general. So yeah, but clerics and stuff still work there, so that's kind of interesting. Esper the Bard, yep. Yeah, but it's a dry heat. Yeah, humidity's a killer. That's one of the things that makes Australia so, like Sydney, for instance, gets really humid as well as hot, whereas Queensland is more dry, for the most part. What's my favourite evil, the Forgotten Realms? My favourite evil thing? I don't know, there's so many. Yeah, Mr. X has done videos on dryads, nymphs. He's done a lot of videos on dragons. I don't think he's done any of the obscure dragons. What god would an evil dwarf cleric worship? So there's Abathor. There's a dark aspect of Abathor, which is the greed and larceny of Abathor. There's Guanadower. I think some bad dwarves worship that. But don't forget, they don't just have to worship dwarven gods. Evil dwarves can worship Bane and other gods. I don't remember Dragon Turtle. Got an ad for Fighting Fantasy 14, Final Fantasy 14. Just letting you know what you advertise. Did I miss it? Oh, no, I don't care what ads you see on my channel. It's got nothing to do with me. Just pay the money and subscribe to YouTube like Netflix. It's a much better service. For instance, you can like pause videos and just click on it and it plays straight away. It's a lot more clear. You get no ads whatsoever, and it's easier to navigate. I'd rather give up my Netflix subscription than give up my YouTube Premium. So yeah, I hear a lot about people, saying this is what you advertise on your channel. It's got nothing to do with me. I don't make any choices on what ads play on my channel. That is actually, and not only that, but it's not my channel that's advertising. It's your YouTube, it's your Google preferences. So whatever you click on and whatever you navigate and what pages you look at and stuff, Google is tracking what you do and then feeding you advertising according to your preferences. So two different people watching the channel at the same time, when the ad spot comes up, will watch two different commercials because they're in different locations and they've got different browsing habits. So even more so, it's your advertising, it's not mine. I wish more people understood that Google is an AI. Google is not a bunch of people. Google is a big box in a room with 1,000 servers attached to it, playing 3,000 videos per second, tracking everything we do, and machine learning at an alarming rate. AJ1 Kenobi. Is it possible to make a Spelljammer helm and reactor ship generator that can be operated by anyone and doesn't take the spell slots of spellcasters? Yeah, absolutely. So, for instance, there's lots of different types of helms. One of them is a forge, essentially, that you throw magic items into, and it burns up their magical energy. Kind of like in 4th edition, they had Residuum, so you could reduce magic items back to a magical essence powder. I hated Residuum, actually, and Astral Diamonds. I thought they were ridiculous. And essentially, you can run the spell ship that way. Dwarves, for instance, have ships which operate on prayers to Moradin through crafting. So they have big halls where they make stuff, and their making stuff actually generates magical force that drives the ship. And yeah, all sorts of other stuff. You can have helms which run on life force, and it doesn't have to be a willing participant. Mind flayers are particularly known for making ships like this that run on slaves. Essentially, think of the Dark Eldar from Warhammer 40k. That's exactly how those ships work. Hey, thanks, Kevin. What do you think about adding a channel to the Discord for character campaign world ideas, assuming that it's not already part of the Homebrew discussion channel? Well, it is pretty much part of the Homebrew discussion channel. Anybody's welcome to have general chats and have topics and things like that, and anybody who wants to request a specific channel. The Discord is not set in stone, it's user based. So you can ask me or Gerbil or any other admins there to add specific channels and stuff if you want to make a campaign setting, like a channel for information about your game that you run via live chats or whatever. I definitely want more people playing RPGs in the chats and stuff, because it's a video chat service, and it's a really easy way to find people. If you're having trouble finding a game in your local area, hook into the Discord. There's a link in the doobly-doo underneath this video, and go and ask for a game, or who is interested in playing a game. And you can just play directly over Discord. There's also chat bots and stuff that can provide services, gaming sort of services like dice rolls and stuff like that. So you can make use of those. They're integrated into the Discord as well. Behold Google. Yeah. I'd say don't fear Google per se. It doesn't have evil intent. It's just it's just reacting to what we do. Elon, that's an interesting question. If the rules of D&D universe applied to our universe, which people from history do you think would ascend to godhood? Essentially, the people who are pop culture icons. Abraham Lincoln, for instance, would probably be a religion. Oprah. Dr. Phil, I don't know. Mother Teresa? Ooh, controversial. An orc channel complete the Trinity, assuming enough people are interested. Oh, an orc channel to go along with the elves and the dwarves. Yeah. Well, we could have a Forgotten Realms Humans channel, because they don't get enough love. all the different cultures of humans. My lizard folk has been deep grumbling, scratchy voice and calls mammalian creatures smooth skins. Interesting. I would call them pink skins. Furnace, Artifice, Pump, Life Jammer, Key Helm, Series Helm, and a Pool Helm. Yep, all of them. A world building channel would be a good idea. Okay. Hey, Quentin. After our game last night, my party very suddenly wants to enchant their boat to fly. I have absolutely no idea what or even how they would do that. We're based on Tyrell. Any ideas? You can get some wondrous items that, like a feather token, and there's also like a paper ship that folds out. There's also a cloak that you can tear off a patch of it that makes a boat. I would use something like that. Also, you could reconfigure an immovable rod, for instance, to make something that permanently moves unless stopped. Like, I like that idea. Like, the opposite of an immovable rod is a moving rod, right? So to activate it, to stop it, and then once you activate it, it moves in a certain direction with the same force that an immovable rod would be stopped. So the opposite of a magic item. Yeah, anyone can run a game. Absolutely. All you got to do is basically hook up with people and just start a chat with them. I would say that if somebody is using one of the chat rooms to run a game, don't disrupt their game. Although it's pretty difficult if you're running a video chat game. People can't just like drop in usually unless they're invited. But it's largely up to you how you do it. I'm not even going to mention his name, Manuel. The Mind Flayers usually use a series of pool helms. The Neogi and Clockwork Horrors use life jammers. Okay. And Orcs, Goblinoids use pump. Can you explain the pump and the pool helms? Who's credited with the term doobly-doo? The first time I heard it used was Matt Colville, but I've heard other people use it as well. Michael Jordan, yeah. Mr. T. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Hey, Mossy Golem, just use my name if you're asking questions, because otherwise it's very distracting for me. Google's going to pull a Skynet. Well, yeah, I don't think AI is quite like that. Like we can't help but anthropomorphize AI. Like, for instance, if you had a Warforged, for instance, that didn't have any ego, like it just did what it was programmed to do and didn't do anything else. Like, I would like to see a D&D setting where there's self-aware sort of scout Warforged who are built to adapt and learn, but also there's great big like Warforged siege engine type things that don't think. They are just designed to do one task until they're told not to. So smash wall, break into castle, kill everyone with fire, for instance. And them being a major threat that the Warforged don't like to talk about. Like, so there may be an order of Warforged paladins who go about deactivating the Warforged that were built for just war. So I like that idea. There's a lot of scope in Eberron for that sort of thing. Not so much in Forgotten Realms, although the Warforged are certainly part of it. Like Lantern, for instance, disappeared from the world, and everybody thought that the island just got flooded and washed over. But then Lantern basically reappeared. Their civilization reappeared there. They had been transported to another dimension. And when they came back, they had these weird crystals and things like that. They didn't really speak about where they went. So there's all sorts of opportunities for introducing weird alien stuff. So if you ever wanted like a sort of a demi mind flayer player character, for instance, it's possible that something like that came from there. The Discord's in the chat, the description of the today's chat. The link. Thanks, Kajak. Would it be possible to create a basic computer using a large amount of zombies? I saw that in the community chat. Yeah, so there's a big long discussion about using zombies or skeletons to form a computer circuit, because they're very reactionary. So you have some which are ones and some sorts of zeros, and they're instructed to do certain things in response to very simple stimuli. And if you had enough zombies, particularly like size reduced pixies, undead pixies, you could make a logic gate. You can make a like the dungeon would be the circuit board, and all of the undead in it would be the logic gates, and you could actually get them to do calculations. And also you could program it to make more, so you could actually have an undead AI. In theory, it's fine, except it's forgetting the fact that undead are all linked up to Orcus and other powers of undeath in the multiverse. So things don't exist in a vacuum in D&D, particularly entropy, which sounds weird. What are my thoughts on the Area 51 memes going around? I think some people are probably actually going to show up and do it. I'm going to be watching very closely to see what happens, because being 3,000 odd miles away, it's entertaining for me. It's not something I would ever do. And also, not entirely sure that like if people are going to Area 51, and like there's 300,000 people going to show up, bear in mind that that's really dangerous, because there are not enough resources to support 300,000 people in the middle of wherever it is, Nevada or wherever it is. Don't expect to go to the convenience store and get food, so take along, look after yourself if you're going to do something like that. Pack for survival. Yeah, I hope they live stream it too. I mean, if I was the US Air Force, I would just have some people go in there and wander around and look at everything and live stream that. Like, hide really sensitive information, like if there's a warehouse with missile technology and stuff like that they don't want people to see, sure. But otherwise, just be more open about what's there. And if there are aliens there, why hide it? Why keep it a secret? I mean, why do we need to be concerned with aliens when we've got people like Mark Zuckerberg walking around? Pool hounds use the psychic energies of the mind flayer brine pool. Ah, that's interesting. So the brine pool itself is psychically charged. That's cool. The pump uses matter. The more valuable material, the more powerful. Right, so that's like feeding magical items into it. Is that the one I was thinking about? Oh, it's New Mexico. Right. Tex-Mex. Oh, 7,000 miles away. Right, yeah. Nice and safe. I hope there's no nuclear weapons pointed at my country right now. There's no reason for it. Zombie logic gates, yeah. Gundam. Really, walking power armor would be so impractical. You just make clouds of drones. There's nothing much you can do about clouds of drones apart from very strong EMP devices. And EMP is nowhere near as effective as people think it is, and from popular media. Like, it's got a very limited range. Key Helms. Right. Yeah, so Area 51 is just a weapons testing ground, as far as I know. Space tadpoles. It's not the aliens that concern you; it's the extraterrestrials. Right. Well, I mean, I love the fact that nobody thinks that these ships may actually just be transdimensional. Um, why would you go anywhere in a universe with multiple dimensions? Why travel through the void of space at all? So it's equally likely that these are beings from another plane of existence. Really, why else would they look so human? Thoughts? Thanks, Kickass Duke. I'm thinking of having a planet based on the elemental chaos that was formed by a prismatic dragon because it needed that much room for its treasure hoard. Thoughts? Eberron. So that's essentially Eberron is like formed from a great big dragon. Kyber. Um, yeah, and also what else? Um, I'm reading through the world book for the Midgard setting at the moment from Kobold Press, the guys that bring us the Creature Codex and stuff. By the way, I think the Creature Codex is up for an ENI award as well, so you should go and vote for those guys because they deserve it. Um, because I want to do some videos on the Tome of Beasts and the Creature Codex and the creatures in there, but doing due diligence and being scholastic as I am, I wanted to actually look at the world setting that they come from, that they're supposed to be used for, to see if there's extra lore and stuff that I can bring to the video and get people interested in that actual world setting as a different option for play, because it's 5th edition capable as well. So that's what I'm reading through at the moment in my spare time, along with tons of other stuff. At the moment, I'm also wading through this massive pile of paper. This is all on Baphomet, by the way. This is Baphomet Cultists, and this is Baphomet Prince of Beasts from Dragon Magazine, number 341. And what's this one from? This is Dragon 355. So that's when all of the, like, this is 2006, 2007. So 3rd edition stuff, 3.5. What races in D&D would make good little green men? Hmm. Um, Svarts are interesting. Uh, Goblins themselves, like hyper intelligent goblins. Why not? Hey, Same Rosa. All right, Michael, with the CR of creatures and stuff, like what I said with the angels is that the CR that they put there was with, I think they had in mind, what if the player characters actually fight these things? You don't want them too powerful because, you know, they'll wipe out a player character party. I don't think that was a good idea. Like you, like you can play evil characters and things like that, but the idea of Dungeons and Dragons is to have heroic, larger than life action heroes who save the world and stuff. You can certainly play evil campaigns and stuff, but I don't think you should probably have them storming the gates of heaven to turn D&D into an evil place. I mean, it's, yeah. I don't run a lot of evil campaigns. Usually it's pretty nickel and dime, like city streets of Menzoberranzan and stuff, sort of settings. Um, and they don't generally, those campaigns don't generally go all the way to the end, sort of thing. So those characters never really get very, 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 very high level. Nice one, Kid Jack. We could make Orcus the next Steve Jobs. Our dimension could be artificial for the sole purpose of interdimensional travel. How do we know? How would we know? Yeah, Baphomet's going to be good because um, he's evil, evil, like good old fashioned brutal evil. Yeah, well, I mean, the idea behind Nyogi and Mind Flayers and some of the like Gith and stuff is that they are basically space travelers. They are basically the extraterrestrials. Particularly Mind Flayers are extraterrestrials. And then you've got the other sort of aberrations like Growl and even Flumps in a way. Yeah, doppelgangers also make excellent little green men. Adrian, if you want to play a game where you want to have gods as playable entities, or entities that can be actually confronted, physically confronted and stuff by characters, then stats are useful. Also, as a dungeon master, it's absolutely your right to say, "No, they're not having stats. I'm just going to play them as these idea entities that cannot be beat," and that's perfectly fine. So they've included them as an option, but it doesn't necessarily mean they have to be that way in your game. You are the arbiter of your campaign world. And if your friends that are sitting at the table say, "No, we want the gods and stuff to have stats," that's something you can discuss with them. But if you're a good friend of somebody who's running a game, don't dictate how they're going to run their campaign. Don't say, that's the rules, because the person who's running the story for you is arbitrating the rules. That is the actual primary rule of the game. And who mentioned it? Grim. Grim's a channel that I follow, and he was talking about there's some people who say that you can just refuse to participate in something that your dungeon master has said, like, there's some consequence of your action, and then the person who's sitting at the table playing says, "No, that doesn't happen," um, and basically sort of overrules the DM and says, "No, that doesn't happen to my character. I want something else to happen in this game. Otherwise, I'm leaving." Well, I suggest you let them leave, because friends don't generally do that. And as I've always said, if your friendship is good, the rules don't really matter. Yeah, you only really get into rules debates and conversations, and well, you get into debates about rules and stuff like that when your friendship has got problems with that person. So look to your friendship when you start having game problems more so than the game rules, and certainly don't go asking in forums and stuff like that advice on how to deal with difficult players. It's not a difficult player, it's a person that you're having a social interaction with. So learn how to deal with people before you start using the game as some sort of a crutch for your social interactions. It doesn't work, it never works. If the relationship with the person is broken down, no amount of rule books are going to fix that. Preach! How you think, guys? Yeah. You got two wishes from your deck of many things last session. Any idea what you can use them for? Well, I'm not really familiar with your character. What would your character do? Like, what's your character's motivation? What is your character's goals? That's what I'd be asking. Not you as the player, but what does your actual character sheet tell you that person wants to do? Are they motivated by money, power, generosity? Thanks, Lewis. Who do I think is more powerful, Orcus or Vecna? Um, my usual answer is Demogorgon comes in and kicks their ass. Um, it's hard to say because we don't know Vecna's true like Vecna keeps things concealed. It's his very nature. So we don't know how powerful Vecna really is. Pretty damn powerful. Orcus, on the other hand, is like the Thanos of D&D. He's this inexorable force who loves entropy and death, and he wants to control a dead universe. Essentially, everything under his absolute authority, and he wants it quiet. So I think Vecna is okay with people living and the status quo of things as they are. So I think Vecna's probably got an edge on Orcus because it's hard to say, because Orcus may just like kill everything, and that may disrupt Vecna's plans somewhat. But possibly Vecna has the ability to reshape reality a bit more than Orcus does, because Vecna's got his fingers in many pies. So I don't know, probably an even match, that one. Which one's more powerful? Really comes down to which one's more popular in some respects. Life Jammer, Magical Helm, Minor Helm, Non-Magical Engine, Orbis. Oh yeah, the Orbis. Pool Helm, Pump, Rudder of Propulsion, Series Helm, and Ultimate Helm. Right, I like the Orbis. The Orbis is essentially an engineered beholder. So the Orbis are a specifically bred beholder that powers their ships. It's really interesting. If you resided in an outer plane, which would you pick if you met a being from each major one that would you prefer to meet, and what would you do? If I was to reside in the outer plane, it would probably be Celestia, because I love the idea of having access to all that information, and just being part of an orderly plane of existence. I'm not a very active person. I like my creature comforts, so Elysium would probably be pretty nice as well. I mean, it's the definition of nice, right? So the danger of Elysium is that you'd never want to leave because it's so comfortable. So Elysium's pretty nice. And what was the rest of the question? If I was to meet a person, if you met a being from each major one, what would I prefer to meet, and what would I do? Well, I'd just be me, and I'd be interested and curious about what they're doing, really. I haven't received Strongholds and Followers yet, but I've got the tracking information on it, so it is in the mail, so it will be arriving here at some point. Raceland. Everybody loves Raceland so much. He was a dick. What's the name of the Illithid planet? Oh, the one that they made, Necromunda, I think it is, or Necromundus, or they constructed a planet. I don't know what the name of the original planet was. Interesting. Yeah. Orcus has stats and Vecna doesn't. Do all of the planes have alternate? You're asking. Do all of the planes have alternate dimensions, or just the Prime, and maybe it's Echoes, the Feywild, and the Shadowfell? I think they all have the same dimensions, possibly. It's hard to say. Like, that's really up to you. If you're making a homebrew world, you can give it whatever sort of dimensions you want. So whatever outer planes you want it to have. And if they coincide with existing pantheons and stuff like that, then just make use of the resources that are available. And also, don't be set in stone about what the source books and stuff say that those outer planes are like. It's like every single time player characters go to Asgard or Elysium or Celestia, make them different, make them slightly different, like they're walking into a different iteration of a faith or a story or a dream. These are realms of thought and belief, so beliefs change and shift over time. Area 51 has got an ambassador from Toril. Nice. You want to be a Chewinga. If I wanted to be an elemental, water, I think, probably. Hey, thanks, Hoovgoon. Lore Master of the Multiverse. I thought you were going to ask me for Master of the Universe lore there. I misread it at first. If I could take one class at max level in real life, what would I choose? Wizard. I like the idea of living for thousands of years and being able to change reality at will. Penumbra. Oh yeah, okay. That might be the name of the world. Yeah, Orcus is pretty intimidating. If you finish the whole story, Raistlin proves himself to be an epitome of chaotic good alignment by doing whatever it takes to defeat evil and even save his friends and family. You have to defend your boy. Yeah, he does some evil stuff, though. He does. He's certainly pretty mean to his brother. You could say he's lawful neutral. Gods are cowards. If you combined one of every type of true dragon Tiamat style, could it beat Moradin? Um, well, if you're being hypothetical, could Moradin beat the World Serpent? Um, because there's a lot of crossover between like Norse myth and Dwarven myth. Hmm. I don't know. Isn't really any precedence for it in the lore, so your guess is as good as mine. What school of magic is my favourite? As of late, I think Abjuration has been one of my favourites. I've been playing a lot, like Abjurers have been prominent in my current campaign that I'm running, because the player characters are all crossed over to another world, and they're being chased by some Abjurer police, so to speak, whose mission is essentially to banish otherworldly beings back to where they came from, no matter who they are or where they're from. So they've detected that these player characters, who are kids really, are from another plane of existence. And not only that, but the first thing they did when they arrived was they stole a lot of money off somebody who was quite influential, an NPC in the game. And so they chased them out of the city, and then the player characters moved out into the wilderness, into a fey forest sort of thing. But if they go back to the city, they're going to have to they're going to have to avoid the abjurists who are after them. So they're kind of like the FBI. What would be good lair actions for the four genie types? Well, it's all reality manipulation and elemental power. And also, don't forget that genies would collect vast amounts of wealth, because they've been around for a very long time and they like their creature comforts. So genies have magical items and things, wondrous items, that they would make use of. And probably stuff from other planes of existence, technology, for instance. They might have a TV in the corner, you know. They might be playing an Xbox. That's the other thing with storm giants. Storm giants have a lot of technology from the ancient times as well. Their mastery of electricity, for instance. So yeah, they have things like the Palantir from Lord of the Rings. They have stuff like that that allows them to observe areas of the world that are connected to other devices from the ancient giant culture of Storia. The Draken Tour, yep, I suppose so. I've always found like I've got a slight resistance to doing lore on the Draken Tour because I think they're really OP. Like really. For instance, somebody asked me the other day, can you roleplay a dragon as a player character? And I was like, yes, you can, as long as everybody else is playing a dragon. There is actually an old setting for that, which is kind of like a side game. You could run a mini campaign where everybody plays a dragon, and that's perfectly viable. but it only really works if everybody is a dragon in the game. You can't have one player who's playing a dragon because they're just on a completely different power scale and progression scale to everybody else. One thing I really liked about the Midgard world setting is an element for the storytelling of the actual how you run the campaign, where the time between sessions is doubled in the game world at least. So if you're running a session every week, 2 weeks have passed in between. So if the characters kind of like have an interlude where they go back to town after going on an adventure or whatever, it can be several months have passed when you sit down at the table and start up your next game. So that solves the problem, which is a problem in D&D, of the rapid progression of characters going up in level in only a few months' time worth of gameplay. It doesn't really make a hell of a lot of sense. But if you have a longer stretch of time taking place in the game world, it gives more of the feel that this character has got a career, has got a life progression. Not only that, but they actually age. They get older as the game goes on, and they can die of old age, and you can have a legacy character, which is like their cousin or their son or daughter or whatever, who carries on this legacy, takes their magical items and things, and carries on the quest sort of thing. And it's a whole aspect of gameplay for Saga, which I really quite enjoy. And it's as simple as changing the timescale that you use in your gaming sessions. So, kudos to Kobold Press. It's a really good idea, and there's absolutely no reason why you can't adapt that into your Dungeons and Dragons game. Why are astral dragons so rarely brought up? They do feature a little bit in lore, but not a lot in Forgotten Realms. Encounter Mounter. Oh, that's a good question, Joseph. Kudos for bringing up the old crafting videos. Love your lore and craft videos. When you made your tiles with Sculpey clay, do you prefer to bake the clay or not when going to make the silicon molds? Oh, I baked the clay when I was making the silicon molds of them. But yeah, I suppose you could. The problem is it does adhere a bit, because when you're making those, you use your fingers, and your fingerprints actually form little ridges and stuff in the Sculpey, which the silicon can stick to. So unless you're using like a release agent, like some cooking oil or something like that, or some silicon spray. So yeah. I don't know. I always like experiment with what I'm doing when I'm crafting, so I never craft things exactly the same way every single time. I'm always playing around with the materials, see if I can get it to do different things, testing out its capabilities. Like, I like crafting things because it's a technical challenge. Dark Strider, yeah, absolutely. So what does everybody think about me doing encounter videos? Like, so with the last few videos that I've done, I've included more sort of story elements, game world, describing it like like you would when you're dungeon mastering the game. And those seem to be pretty popular little sections, as long as they're not too long. If I stick to under like 5 minutes of story element in the video, that's generally, I think, optimal. But if it's like 10 minutes of me talking about it, some people get a little bit sick and tired of it. With what was the one I was talking about? Oh, the Baneloth. Baneloth? Baneloth? The creature that's... Yeah, there's a video that I was talking about setting up an encounter and how layer effects work. One of the things I wanted to talk about in a future video was how to handle overcrossing layer effects, or regional effects that cross over with each other. So if you've got a dragon and a powerful vampire and an aberration, which are all operating in the area, how do you work out how those layer effects combine and create a really weird environment? Because that is so cool. You can make some really interesting combinations. I have not read the Iron Tower series, Chase. What's it about? Give the craftsman a run for his money on YouTube, AJ. Who's the craftsman? I'll have to look that up. Yeah, I do crafting. It's where's one of the ones that I've crafted? So for those of you who don't know, I do actually, this was like a practice session of a beholder that I was crafting. And it's just using Sculpey and tin foil and stuff. This one's really old and dusty now. But yeah, so this was one that I made as a practice before I sent one off to Dungeon Master Scotty. So if you ever look at the video from DM Scotty where he's talking about the gift that I sent him, that's another good example of my crafting skill, sculpting. Well, everybody, it's time for me to go. Chaotic neutral and true neutral. Well, true neutral basically just looks after their own interests. They don't get involved. They don't really make a lot of decisions on what's good or what's bad. They don't think they've got an authority to say so. Chaotic neutral is they essentially just follow their whims. So whatever they decide to do at any particular point in time. So chaotic neutral are like, they're not necessarily bad or good. They just look out for their own interests. So they don't keep promises and things like that. They don't make promises. What would be a good example of a chaotic neutral type character? Benny from The Mummy is a pretty good example of a chaotic neutral character. Although he does do bad things, and occasionally I suppose he's capable of doing good things. For the most part, he seems evil because he's just so self-interested. He's so selfish. Find some dragon cheese. Yep, I'm going to go and eat some cheese right now, actually, for lunch. I've got a nice Puhoi Blue. Oh, so Adrian, just before I go, the Sithrune setting, I'm currently not running Sithrune myself, but my friend Ian is running a Sithrune Modern, so a high-tech version of the Sithrune setting. So he's running that himself. So it's kind of interesting that he sort of took over the Sithrune setting and it just sort of backslid on my one. I might return to it at some point. But I'm always making new worlds and stuff. At the moment, the campaign that I'm running doesn't have any world building on it at all. So I haven't actually looked at the entire world per se. It doesn't have a name or anything. I'm just literally running an expanding sandbox campaign where I describe the local setting and what's going on in that city and the surrounding area. But at no point do I plan or describe anything that's outside of the character's awareness. So literally, Bare Metal HW is a good channel on YouTube to model your sculpting channel after. Oh, okay, cool, good. So yeah, you don't have to world build. That's a fallacy. You can just literally run a game only describing things that your player characters would understand, and literally you create the world as they explore it. So it's as interesting to you because you can make up anything. You're unrestricted. So you're not locked into whatever world idea you've set. So the world literally becomes driven by the characters' interactions with it. Okay, everybody, time for me to go. Maybe I should make a video on that one as well. It's been great hanging out with you. Lots of really good questions this week. And look forward to the video on Baphomet and also a homebrew monster that I'm finally bringing to the table. For those of you who are familiar with the story The Color Out of Space, look forward to a sentient color